And we had the JSE closing at a new 14-month high yesterday. That's the 8th gain in a row. Creeping higher again today, but the rally does seem to be becoming a little more muted, doesn't it?
Yes, volumes are very low this morning, even when you compare it to yesterday. Investors perhaps are waiting for this afternoon. Obviously, commodity stocks are benefiting from the strong levels overnight, but investors still a bit wary, a bit cautious. We probably see some short covering from yesterday, as some investors felt that some stocks had really run through some technical levels. So very thin, waiting for direction.
Of course, you mentioned this afternoon. Yesterday afternoon, we had some industrial production figures out of the United States, and they were slightly disappointing. Today, we're getting housing starts and inflation data. What are you expecting on that front?
Well, market expectations are that we should see an increase in housing starts and building permits, and that really is quite important now because it's a leading indicator. And if we see an upswing in those numbers or an increase in those numbers, it really indicates the start of a new cycle. So very important. Probably will take us higher this afternoon if those numbers come out as expected.
Of course, we had some data out of our own this morning. We had retail sales data for September, minus 5.1%, so quite a big contraction, slightly worse than the market was expecting, wasn't it?
No, the market had expected a contraction of 4.7. I think slightly disappointing. Obviously, that will put pressure on our retailers. In terms, Stephen, when we look at the effect of the basis point cut, our first cut was December last year, we should really only see a recovery in retail sales at the beginning of the year. I am, however, still hopeful that the Christmas season will help us. And of course, yesterday we didn't get an interest rate cut, so really we didn't get any relief from our governor yesterday. So consumers still under pressure and will continue to be pressure until the end of the year.
Of course, the governor's move was pretty much expected by the market. So did you see any reaction from any of the interest rate sensitive sectors?
No, market was fairly quiet. I think the majority of the market had expected no cut. Disappointing though, but unfortunately not much of a movement.
Of course, you mentioned commodities a little bit earlier, and of course we had the gold hitting a new all-time high in Asia this morning. Other precious metals also creeping higher, and we had some base metals like copper also gaining on the dollar's weakness this morning.
Stephen, when one looks at the metals, we see silver, we see platinum, all these precious metals where investors are really looking at precious metals as a new asset class. And you see investors moving away from currency-based to a more tangible asset class. So we'll see, as well as the comments and the daily reporting from IMF in terms of their sales on their gold, really spurring investors. And then of course we saw the comments out or the article in the paper this morning talking about demand increasing for our metals, our commodities. So really spurring those numbers higher.
And that's really good for our market at the same time, isn't it?
Well, one has to be cautious about our market because, as even though we're seeing higher gold prices and high silver, palladium, unfortunately our strong rand is really eating away at the cost of our gold miners. So we are most likely to see disappointments coming through, even though our miners are not really getting the benefit of those stronger prices.
We had some results out locally this morning, Dimension Data and also Reunert. I mean, Data's results, they look pretty good on the face of it. If you take them back a bit to Datatech's results that were out recently.
Yes, on face value, they look quite good. They're definitely ahead of consensus. We saw that Australia was the best performance, and management has come out to say that they're expecting to do quite well or better in 2010. We, however, are quite cautious. We think that the price is very full, and we prefer Datatech in terms of the stock in the sector. We think that Datatech is going to benefit more from an economic recovery. So definitely Datatech, our preferred pick.
How about Reuters results? What did you make of those?
When one looks at the Roynet results, they are in line. We saw some disappointing numbers out from their consumer electronics, which is very effective of our consumers. And then we saw a surprise out of the Reutech sector, where they had locked in a price benefit or rand dollar benefit of $10. 10 rand to the dollar, which is really unlikely to happen again. We highlight possible downside risk to Roynet, and management in their statement this morning is very cautious in the short term. In the short term, in terms of recovery, we have a hold on that stock as well, and we prefer Altec in that sector.